Well, hello everyone. I want to welcome you guys to our final presentation. I'm Nawai Matthew.
I'm Matthew Naminsky.
I'm John Peterson.
I'm Alex Dunphy.
And we're Team EvenOdds. We are a web development group in CGT 411450. And today we'll be presenting what we've been working on very hard this semester. Before I go any further, I'm just going to go over a brief overview of what we'll be talking about today. I'll be talking about a background of our project, then the problem and our hypothesis. We'll then move on to the research and development of our product, do a demo of our product, reveal our results and testing from our research, and then we'll talk about where we would like to see this project go in other semesters after us. So this semester, we've been working with James Britton. He is our sponsor. He is the Electronics Communications Coordinator for the Office of the Vice President of Student Affairs here at Purdue. This office oversees 10 different departments, to name a few: bands, CCO, PMO, and all of these departments try to encourage learning out of the classroom and getting students involved. When James talked to us, he expressed that as these different departments put on a lot of events for Purdue students and a lot of activities, but Purdue students are either unaware of these different activities, and there is currently not a central hub for students to access all this information about these different activities. So we decided to come together and take what we've learned over our 4 years, or 5 years for some of us, and apply it to this project. We wanted to create a website that Purdue students can access and let it be a more effective way of displaying all these different activities for Purdue students. So one of our main things that we wanted to do is just check out the VPSA site currently and see what is the current issue right now. If you see right now, these are 10 different screenshots from all the different departments here, or the departments under the VPSA office. All have different layouts, all have different information. You will see in our testing and results that Purdue students couldn't even sometimes find the contact number for a certain department because of how the layout and information was displayed on these different websites. So we wanted to create a more cohesive design, a more integrated design, so Purdue students can access just simple information such as a phone number or a list of events or a calendar to make it more efficient and effective for students to get more involved outside of the classroom. One of our next steps was creating an introductory survey just to see how Purdue students are hearing about different events that are put through the VPSA office. And we made a Caltrex survey, and we had 150 students respond back to it. And the overwhelming response was actually 83% said that word of mouth is how they hear about different activities on campus put through the VPSA office. And this just clearly illustrates that the VPSA website is not currently being a tool used to figure out what's going on campus. So I'm now going to pass it to Matthew, who's going to go a little bit more into detail about our research and development.
All right, thank you, Nawai. So for our research and development, we started first by simply looking at other sites of college universities, just to see if anyone else had sort of come up with anything interesting or fresh beyond the typical sort of college website. What we found was really there wasn't much difference. A lot of the same sort of templates and content management systems used at Purdue were used across Big Ten schools. We did, however, find one example late, right when we were about doing testing, which actually hit quite close to home. It's a very similar concept in terms of what was displayed and how the site was sort of run. In a way, we sort of see that as a validation that this is an interesting idea and that it should be sort of embellished upon. We also decided to sort of look at responsive design. Now, if you don't know what responsive design is a web design approach aimed at crafting sites to provide an optimal viewing experience across all devices. So this includes your PC, your laptop, your tablet, your phone, really any device with a different screen resolution size. Now, we see this as an important part of our design because during our pre-survey, we found that when asked what devices Purdue students access the internet on, we found that laptop was the highest at 97%, followed closely by cell phones at 84%. Wasn't even close, those were the top two. Also, we wanted to focus on what we describe as rich media content. Now, rich media content is defined as media websites that use text, pictures, sound, and video clips. under our research, we found that sites that have these type of images or videos or this sort of content typically are more remembered by a user who experiences them. They have a better sort of outlook on the site in general after viewing it. We also wanted to focus on concise information. When we focused on, or when you saw the slide that Noai showed you, we showed you the 10 different BPSA department sites. They're all very different, all unique, tons of different links and displays, and it's very confusing and cluttered. So we sort of wanted to minimize that and sort of go down to more basic information and sort of condense all that information. Now we see this is important because site familiarity, essentially making a site sort of familiar across each page, is very important. We define familiarity as the number of experience related to a product that has been accumulated by a consumer. Now essentially that is to say that as as a consumer or user of a site sees a site, they sort of get used to it, they get used to it. We also see social networking as an important part of our site. If you look at that graph over there, this is a Pew Internet Research study. Just there, like undergrads are 86% are on social networking sites. We have another paper that was written by students at another college where they had 400 respondents, 97% use social networking sites. So we see this as something that needs to be integrated within our site. We also want to look at a non-traditional design in terms of produced sites. Our sponsors sort of challenge us to go outside the box, get away from what a typical produced site looks like, the black and gold banner, the double nav bar, and just see what we can come up with. We have a little bit more flexibility in that. So what are we building our site on? Well, HTML5 and CSS3 combined into Twitter Bootstrap. Twitter Bootstrap is a front-end web development framework. Basically, this allows developers like us to rapidly prototype and scaffold pages. It essentially, rather than having to search for different plugins or things like that, Twitter Bootstrap sort of consolidates them into one program, which you eventually can download into a zip file. It's kind of sort of a template at first, however, it allows a lot of flexibility and customization if you are able to use it. So we also reached out for guidance in the department. We talked to Dr. Hartman about our research and methodology. We reached out to Professor Glotzbach, the web professor here, to sort of talk about some of our website features and how to implement certain things. We also talked to Dr. Vorbino, Dr. V, who specializes in usability. She helped us sort of format our testing, how many test subjects we needed, things like that, as well as looked up some of our mock-ups and concepts of our site along the way. So now that I've told you a little bit about our R&D, I'm going to pass it over to Alex to actually show you our product.
All right, thanks, Matthew. Our product is After Class. You're probably wondering, well, what is After Class? After Class is a website where students can go to find out what's going on outside the classroom within the realm of student affairs. James' grad assistant, Shagan, kind of came up with this tagline, engage, involve, connect, and we thought that fit really well with what After Class is. So engage, we want to engage the students in the possibilities. Involve the students to increase life skills such as leadership and cultural diversity. And connect students through involvement. Not only connect with what the BPSA has to offer, but also connect with each other. So now I'll take you into a demo of our website. Please feel free to follow along on your device that you have. The website's listed on the handout. And we are having a few kind of quirks with the responsive design. It's doing what it's supposed to do, but for example, if you view it on your tablet, it's kind of pushing one of our things down, but we're going to adjust that as we finish out this semester. So here for the home page, we start out with a large image carousel. As Matt had mentioned, this is rich media content, and these carousels are on all Purdue sites, but that's to find out what's going on kind of on campus, not what students are doing. So this will be something, see what your peers are doing. And then this can be updated, every couple days, every week, bi-weekly, kind of depending on the time of year and what's going on around campus at that time. Then if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see we have three main columns. On the left side is Purdue Board. Purdue Board is essentially an organization where these student clubs and organizations can submit a flyer that then will be distributed all across campus. So what we did is pulled an RSS feed from the Purdue Board, and then since there's dozens of flyers at any given time, it automatically scrolls through so the user can see more of what's going on. And then if the user wants to see more about that specific event or flyer, they would click on the title, which would then take them to the Purdue Board page. In the middle then is the Student Life blog. This is a blog that's run by James, and it's written all by students, which we think is very important, because if it's written by students, then obviously it's something that students are interested in. So since this webpage is customized just for students, this is very important to us, so we put it down here. It'll automatically display the most current 4 or 5 articles, the title, about the first sentence or so, and then if the user wants to read that article, they would click on the title and it would then take them to the blog page. And on the right-hand side, you see a live Twitter feed. This Twitter feed is pulling all the different handles from about the 10 different departments under the Office of Student Affairs, and also a couple general Twitter feeds such as Purdue's main Twitter feed, Life at Purdue. So obviously this updates itself, so it's all current information on our homepage. Next I'll take you to one of the department drop-downs, which is very similar to the clubs page. So for the sake of time, I'll just show you the bands. If you go to any given department, at the top here you'll find the same layout. On the left-hand side, you'll see basic contact information, just so quick access, phone numbers, simple stuff like that. In the middle is a small image carousel, again with the media. These will be images that are specific to that department. Underneath the image carousel will be a general description, who the department is, what they do, and then on the right-hand side, will be a Twitter feed that's just for that specific department. So this is kind of general information. We're not replacing the other sites. Instead, we kind of pulled from them, what students would want to see. So if someone's, very interested in bands, want to learn how to join the band here at Purdue, they would then leave our site and go to the band site. So clubs is similar layout. Basically tells you how to join a club, form a new club, kind of like get involved. So next I'll take you to the calendar page. So one of our main goals here from the beginning was to pull all the different calendars and make them in one cohesive calendar, one location. And we were having a little bit of trouble with that, as each department kind of uses their own means of how they display their events and calendars. Purdue Rec Sports uses, recreational sports uses Google Calendars, which was very easy for us to pull from and display on our site. But for now, we manually entered the month of April for a few different departments. So when you click on calendar, it'll automatically take you to a calendar that displays all the different events. Down the road, we want it to be color-coded by each department. But as I said before, we're having an issue of pulling in the actual calendars. And then if you want to see a specific department's calendar, you would go on the drop-down menu, click that department, and it would come up with that department's calendar. So here at Purdue, as everyone uses their own calendars, if we feel like if these departments see what we're doing, we're promoting their events, we're putting the word out there, basically we're free advertising for them. So we hope that they would switch to something such as Google Calendars, or at least something that we can pull from and display on our site. So that's kind of an overview of the site. I'll bring it back to the PowerPoint and pass it along to John, who will tell you more about our testing.
Okay, so how do we know what we're doing is actually correct or verified? We talked to a bunch of our professors, the 3 that Matt listed earlier, and we decided to do some usability testing in between the 2 websites. The 2 websites being After Class and also the Office of Student Affairs website. So what we did, we pulled over 56 people. It was about a 15-minute test. They would come into a lab. They answered a short pre-survey, just basic demographics. Have you been using the Purdue sites before? And after that, we'd have them complete 4 tasks on each website. So it prevents site bias as far as if maybe we don't want them to favor our website over the other or vice versa. We had them just pick one of the websites out of a hat, and they just kind of started with that website, and then they switched to the other. So they completed 4 tasks, and after the 4 tasks, they were the same for obviously both websites. They completed a short post-survey. This post-survey was the system usability scale. It's an industry-wide standard that's used for usability testing across any system. It's not just technology. We catered it to use more of a website than like a system. After this, actually during also the task, I forgot to say, so that was our quantitative data with the survey, but we also had qualitative data. We're taking notes. Where were people's mouses hovering around? What were they kind of looking at? Were they making any comments about errors or what they thought information should be in one spot or not? So after they switched websites, we also asked 2 questions, which one they favored more for these certain tasks they were asked to complete. And then after that, we asked them, how can we make improvements on our website? Because it's not just the university website at fall. We want to make ours better as well. So as you can see, for 56 users, this is a graph of the average time on task. As you can see, the tasks are at the bottom, obviously the different websites there. So task 1 was just finding just general departments. What's the list of the departments? Task 2 had to do with finding the phone number for rec sports, just an office phone number. Task 3 had to do with finding 3 different news feeds for any of the departments. A department or a news feed being a calendar, an event feed, an event page like for convocations. And task 4 had to do with finding a social widget for Purdue convocations, so a built-in Twitter widget, a link to Facebook, anything like that. So task 1, obviously they're pretty similar. It's really easy to find. We want the users to feel kind of not pressured or anything to finish these tasks. Task 2 and task 3 are kind of key things to look at. While most people are going to Google this information. If I want to find a phone number, what's going on Tuesday, you would Google it. But I think it defeats the whole purpose of having a website if you can't find basic contact information. I mean, people are taking over a minute and a half on average in a minute and 20 seconds, especially for just a phone number, just to find the simple contact information, which is, it needs to be changed. Something needs to be fixed there if you can't just get simple information. So now we're going to show you 3 of the usability questions we asked on that simple usability scale. It's on a Likert scale, 1 to 5, 1 being less likely, 5 being most likely. And of the 10 questions we asked, we worked with the statistics department at a 95% confidence interval, all proved to be significant. So as you can see, I think this website, I would use this website frequently. You can read the numbers. Obviously, what's the goal of a website? We want people to come back. We want students to be using this, so this is really important, we felt. The next one, this website was easy to use, pretty self-explanatory. User experience is everything. If someone's having difficulty using this, why use it in the first place? The third one, White touched on it earlier. We want this to be integrated. It's Purdue. It should be all one, unified and have that uniformity. If all these departments are different and kind of thinking for themselves, it doesn't make us look good. And it's also very hard to find information on different things because everything is placed in a different area. So kind of what does this mean? How do we use these metrics? It might be a little bit of site bias because ours is still a work in progress as far as the tasks we ask, but I think this points out a big thing, that change is needed. If we're designing a site for students, it needs to be for students. The Office of Student Affairs website, it comes off maybe a little bit more professional and structured from a university standpoint, but if students are viewing this and they want key information, maybe they don't want to see information about a certain person in the department, they just want to know about a certain band. This is information that needs to be displayed, and that should be the only information that needs to be displayed. So we need to find the right content for users and really keep in mind that they're the focus of this project. So legacy, where is this going in the future? We hope it's going to be picked up by another CGT group in the next semester so they can build on this. But we had some ideas on where we think this could go. We thought about a gamification of this, so implementing kind of like a badge system. So it's actually like a digital resume, digital transcript that you can carry around saying, I completed 50 community service hours, or I was involved in these clubs and I did this, I had this position. That kind of leads into a social network aspect. Maybe having a personal account where you log in with your career account. What are your friends doing? Can you connect with friends? Maybe it's an app that you're just looking at in class. What can I do on a Tuesday night? Is there a concert coming on this Saturday? Anything like that. Then we wanted to implement a content management system, something like WordPress. We decided not to go with a content management system because we wanted a custom page. But we felt that if someone's not tech savvy, they'd be able to just hop on this really easily through WordPress and just update something. Also, marketing is key. We really want to stress that this needs to be plugged into BGR and also prospective students. We need this to be plugged in their minds saying, what can I do at Purdue? What's there for me? Overall, we're really excited about this project. We think it has a lot of benefits of what can bring Purdue. So we're really looking forward to see who picks this up and where it can go. Some acknowledgments. We'd like to thank, obviously, James Britton, our sponsor, and Shagan, his graduate assistant, Dan Whiteley, Lee Gordon, thanks for coming to IAB members. Everyone that attended today, we really appreciate. Our professors, Professor Glotzbach, Dr. V, and Dr. Hartman for giving assistance. Perry Cox and Professor Morales for letting us use 346 for letting us annoy them with testing. And also, obviously, Professor Burton kind of kicking us in the ass when we needed and giving us a lot of good insight. So that's kind of our project. Photo credits, and really thank you for coming out. And we'd like to open the floor for questions.
Is that technical jargon? I'm not familiar with that.
Where's the career recipient?
Can you talk a little bit about the sustainability of this? If this was adopted, what kind of tools, what kind of effort would be required to support and maintain this?
Well, we were talking about definitely we will need some type of a database system. We want to have students logging in with their career accounts, and even James Britton was talking about even implementing somewhat of a extracurricular activity transcript. We will need to have some type of database to save all this information for all Purdue students. I'm not sure. We definitely would need more content and more help with our calendar and the RSS feeds. That was a really big issue with us, and throughout our testing, a lot of students were unable to find calendars, simple information about events, and we really need either some type of a central calendar, some type of calendar that is uniform throughout all departments, and Purdue students can access this.
Kind of to go off what Nawai said, as far as like managing the site, James and Shagan are really on board with this. So this is something we want up to date and current. And as far as like the 3 main columns on the homepage, those kind of update themselves, but the carousels and the information are going to need to be updated. So someone's going to have to do it, whether it's a student intern or James. And eventually down the road, like we said, even I don't know if you've taken any web courses or if you know anything about web, but if we transfer this over to a content management system, you know, essentially anybody in this room could update it themselves. So it is going to have some upkeep, but if it's something, you know, that kind of catches on and that James and the department is really passionate about, I don't think that'll be a big issue.
James does have some web development skills, so he's comfortable updating this, but if this really takes off, I think that this should be switched over to content management system, so students will be able to update this as it's for students.
What buy-in do the various clubs have to verify the information you're putting up for them? I mean, so a student goes in and throws up a bunch of pictures on the band page, does the band have the right to disapprove them? Because they don't want those images representing them?
Well, I think there would have to be like some type of approval system. We talked about originally, or early on in the stages, having like a page where the students can upload photos and stuff, but obviously, you know, they could upload things that aren't appropriate or that don't represent the department. So then I feel like James would have to go in, see what they submitted, and then either accept or deny it, and then it would be shown on the page.
Also, James, that middle blog we showed you on the homepage, it's Student Life. James runs that. He oversees it, and students actually write all the content for that. So if we have maybe these people who are updating content as far as the bands page, which mostly stays static as far as contact information, maybe summaries of bands. I think if we has a few students under him that are willing to publish this content, I think he can kind of oversee them and make sure it's the correct information. It's not just maybe anyone updating it.
Yes.
A quick question on the Purdue board section. If it displays the text, was there a reason for using the text, but we're actually doing a small display of the flyer?
Yes.
Yeah, the code for the flyer for the Purdue board is in an iframe. So pretty much, if we decided to take that code and display the flyers instead of the text, it would just been like
So small, you
so
couldn't
small
even read it.
and very insignificant. So we decided to go with the text. If someone is able to change that to make either the flyers more resolution-wise better and bigger, we will definitely implement that. But as far as aesthetics-wise and just getting information, we thought the text would be the best way to go about displaying that.
Thank you.
Just a further comment about that, we would definitely have to work with Purdue board specifically to help them develop possibly a different widget that would be more appropriate that has a larger, I know that was a challenge for you, and also more comments about the calendar. I know that obviously was a challenge. The university has had a lot of struggles with the university calendar system. It's frankly not ideal. So that definitely is going to be a struggle, and I'm glad you addressed that issue. Obviously a site like this where there's going to be some challenges down the road, just making sure we're working properly with the right people to make sure that the content is up to date. But I think you did a good job showing that it's really kind of it's for the time being anyway, it's kind of a highlight of what the departments are all about. And then I think going forward, I envision it as something that will still be a living, breathing object that will sort of toss people the right direction. and hopefully they can serendipitously find out more information about, if they're already in band, maybe they also might be interested in something else. But after class could kind of be the key spot to go to.
Yeah, and I think
So-
that's important is James' department has so much to offer, all these different things underneath them for students to do, but students don't know about it, so there's this gap. So we're trying to bridge the gap. Our site is not trying to replace the VPSA site or the other department sites. We're trying to pull the information from those sites that is just relevant to students. So it's not, on the current VPSA website, there's 2 navigation bars, and it's hard to navigate as we saw during our testing, so.
Yes.
Speaking of your testing, and I was going to ask this question, so nice segue, Alex, thank you. Did you see anything that surprised you? I mean, you achieved statistical significance with the questions you asked, and there was some pretty dramatic results there. Was there anything that caught you off guard or that you weren't expecting?
I think this was our first time usability testing for all of us, which was really cool to just kind of see, especially on the co-rec page when we just asked them to find a contact phone number. So they go on the VPSA page, maybe you can just bring it up, yeah. So they drop a list down of departments and they would click on recreational sports. Another thing, division of recreational sports threw a lot of people off. It seems kind of formal as division of recreational sports, whereas every kid on campus calls it rec sports. But once they'd look for a phone number, they immediately would go to hours and calendar. I think over 90% of people went to hours and calendar for like a phone number, which it doesn't really make any sense. So I thought that was really surprising on where people thought to click on certain things. So I think that's one thing to look at. And even when we asked to find hours and calendar on the third task, if you just scroll back up to the top, you'll see right here they have a calendar link, they have a calendar link, and then if you scroll down a little bit more, they have another calendar link. And it was funny to see which link people would click. Even though some would be bigger than others, they would not click those. So it was really interesting to see actually the thought process of where people would click, which I think is important to address even for our site. We found with our calendar we had a misplaced calendar button to switch between calendars, and that was really hard for people to see. So it actually brought out a lot of bugs that we needed to fix, which we've addressed and we're continuing to address.
The usability testing aspect of that is really ripe for a lot of further research, I think.
Definitely.
And there's some very interesting studies out there that talk about, all of this, and it changes almost as fast as the technology changes. So that's pretty interesting. Good work on that.
Could you talk a little bit more about the choice of colors that you used?
Yeah, I accidentally breezed over that. Sorry about that. So back on the home page, what I meant to say at the bottom here is you may have noticed we kind of have this color scheme of the green, the blue, and the orange. And as Matt stated, we're trying to get away, from the typical Purdue colors, stuff like that. And even when we were testing, John, was kind of the speaker for most of our testing. He asked the students, what do you think about the black background? How were the bright colors? Was it too straining on your eyes? And the overwhelming response was, no, I like that. It drew my eyes, the bright colors drew my eyes to specific things on the page. And we still wanted it to be a Purdue site, so these colors are actually taken from the secondary color palette from Purdue's marketing and media site. So we're not too far, off the map here. We're still trying to stay under Purdue and incorporate a little gold so it's recognizable as a Purdue site. So that's kind of more about the colors. Thanks for asking.
Follow up to that, what are Purdue rules for accessibility for colorblind people, and does your page follow those rules?
We, on every survey for the pre-survey, we actually asked if people were colorblind. Unfortunately, we got no people that were colorblind, but I think that's something that we definitely need to address. I don't know as far as the colors we picked or anything, like as far as the contrast, if that's going to really throw people off. I think that's something that it definitely needs to be addressed though. And actually, we had one person come in and they said, I'm not colorblind, but I'm dyslexic. How does this affect, my viewing? So actually, I was really glad they brought that up. And afterwards, we talked to them, what typefaces are really hard for you to read, like, how do we make this the most usable and the most legible as far as that goes? I think that's one thing we didn't really address completely, but I think we need to really look into colorblindness because we only interviewed 56 people out of the 40,000, people at Purdue or whatever that is.
I also had one more thing, just to enlighten everybody in the room. as we were working through this together, you know, we thought of names. I forget who thought of the name first, and we liked it right away after class. You know, this is outside the class experience. You know, we got maybe 80% of the way done, and maybe one of you can share what you discovered. University of Iowa.
During our presentation, I didn't necessarily want to bring out this part just because I felt like it might be a little distracting, but I'm glad you did bring it up. The other site was actually called After Class as well of Iowa. However, we'd always been After Class Camel Case, CLAS altogether. They were After Space Class. We did address this. It was really funny. Actually, it was horrifying when we first found it out. Really funny afterwards. We brought it up to James. The next time we met with him, we actually brought it up to Professor Burton, who also kind of chuckled at it. He asked us, you know, is it trademarked? Is it, you know, what is it? Is it just After Class? Is it Iowa? Well, it's afterclass.iowa.edu, just as like Purdue has that. As far as that, it doesn't seem like there will be any troubles with that. We checked if After Class itself was trademarked within Indiana. It is not. So if we wanted to go ahead and sort of take advantage of that, we could.
I think we also went to every single Big Ten website. They're like, you know, like Purdue.edu, something like that, and we searched pretty furiously to find these websites, these student fair, how to get involved, and kind of stuff like that. And we just really couldn't find them. It was hard to find them. We didn't find the Iowa one until we were working on our branding. We searched After Class in Google, and it was, I think, the second link that came up. So
Yeah.
I think that it shows a concern as far as marketing these sites to kids. Like, if you can't even find it on their actual .edu website, then, you know, why does it work? So we have to market it right.
Well, that's better than instead of class.
I just want to point out, I mean, as I touched on in the presentation just briefly, but I mean, I think in a way that sort of validates that, at least in our concept and our idea, is an interesting one, that another school has already taken initiative. I mean, we're simply 4 students in a senior design course. This was done by their marketing and sort of web development department of the university, so these are professionals that are working on this site. So in a way, we kind of spin that as positive, and now that we've sort of settled out any potential legal issues, you know, it's kind of funny, and it's just kind of an interesting lesson.
I think it kind of shows what we're doing is right. We're on the right track. We came up with this whole idea, this whole concept, the whole thing, the dark background. You know, kind of a lot of stuff that the Iowa school came up with. So, you know, at first we were like, oh my gosh, like we have to redo our whole project or, you know, whatever. But then we were really thinking about it and like, we're like, hey, we thought of all this stuff with James, you know, on our own. And now we found that this other school's already doing it. So yeah, like Matt said, I think it validates what we're doing. It shows we're on the right track. And, you know, we're thinking hopefully one step ahead of the rest of the
And
schools.
just a quick touch on that to finish that. Professor Burton, we talked to him about it, and he was kind of like, this is Purdue, this is in Iowa, which I think you know, brings up a good point. This is Purdue students, and it's only for Purdue. So I think that brings up a valid point.
And you know, when you found the site, wouldn't you consider testing your site against that one?
Well,
It wasn't, you know, I kind of thought I was going head to head, but I think we kind of just wanted to see what we were against other Purdue sites. Because the thing is, if you're testing Iowa After Class versus Purdue After Class, I mean, there may be some favorability, but overall we know that like we're competing against other, in a sense, the VPSA site as opposed to the Iowa
Yeah, but
site.
you're just testing usability, right?
True. I mean, fair enough.
yeah, this was like a couple days before our testing.
Yeah, we had already planned out what we were currently doing, and
I think
It's a good point though.
it would be good for future testing. I
Well,
mean,
one of the questions I have is that you can achieve significance when you're comparing something against basically nothing, right? That's pretty easy. So I heard opinions in the beginning about the quality or the lack thereof of the existing interaction with students with these sites. And that is not just your opinion, right? That is a
every
shared
person we
opinion
asked.
of the sponsors and other students and,
Yeah,
Yeah.
through the testing
Listen
we
on
asked.
Google Analytics.
okay. So do you see what I'm getting to?
Yeah,
Is that you're testing something against,
yeah,
right?
I think, yeah.
So I think that it might be interesting to see how it fares
Yeah,
against.
that'd be a great idea
Another
for
site.
further research and further testing. And we also saw, you know, hey, they're kind of doing the same thing. Let's see what features they have. Maybe we can add that to ours.
And so the analysis of that is what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
When you looked at that site,
Mhm.
did you learn from them? Did you feel you distinguished yourself in other areas?
I think as we sort of like looked through it, at first I was sort of the most disliked person in the group because I was the one that found it. But
Yeah.
you know, I think we did. We looked at, like I said, some of the feature set. We looked at how they laid it out. They used a WordPress blog. So it was a little bit simpler in terms of it just, relaying events. But it was a neat system, and I definitely thought, at least in my opinion, it worked. If I went to Iowa, I would have used it. So I do think there is a really good, need for testing against it. That's actually
I
a
think
good
the
idea.
development was a little bit farther along, and so we could kind of look at where maybe something like ours could go, and they had a lot of cool features as far as the calendar and up-to-date events. And I think that's a great point you bring up, and one thing we'd have to definitely address is between the two, how do we measure, I guess, getting that content? Purdue has their own stuff as far as, stuff at Low Playhouse, whereas Iowa might have different, as far as content, but I think that's a really good idea.
I also think, in a sense, we're beholden to the VPSA and their sponsor, of course, in terms of what content we sort of mapped out to be displayed on our site versus theirs, as well as the fact that we're not trying to replace all these other sites. I mean, I believe, James, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Convocations recently just redesigned their site, and I believe they paid for it.
I'm not sure what the
Okay.
details were, but they're using WordPress, and to me, it's probably one of the jazziest, nicest looking sites at Purdue. So.
Okay, well, they redesigned their site recently, and if we were to just try to come in and throw our weight around as who we are, that wouldn't really go well. So we're trying to work within the framework of the VPSA. Where this goes in the future, maybe it'll slowly take a little bit of a bigger hold. For right now, we're trying to work within all the other departments, as a team, and that's really what it is right now. We're just trying to sort of consolidate and funnel some key information. Yes?
So during the Q&A session, when you mentioned that you found the Iowa site, you used the word demoralizing. You guys were like, oh, we might have to scrap our entire project and start over. Life is a challenge. You're never going to find the one idea everyone else has already had. You have to learn to adapt to that. So can you guys explain to me why there's this feeling of backing away from the challenge?
Well, I wouldn't say we were backing away. It was just like
Caught us off guard, kind of.
Yeah, it caught us off guard, and we were so far along in development. We thought this was really original, and we hadn't seen anything like this at Purdue. So to see another school pretty much do kind of like exactly what we're trying to do here was like, whoa, where is this coming from? Like, oh my gosh, I think it was just more of a shocker. I wouldn't say demoralizing.
It was like midnight or 1 a.m.
Yeah.
We'd been working for like 5 or 6 hours, and then we're like, we need to find a better logo for after class. So Matt's like, let me just Google after class and see kind of what comes up in the images just to see. And then he saw it, and then he's kind of sitting there like looking at us, and we're like, what? And he's like, the site. So then we looked at it, and then it's like so late in the night, we're like tired, we're like, oh my gosh. But yeah, as you said, we kind of thought about it and talked with each other, and we thought, hey, this is validating what we're doing. It's not something to push away. We should embrace it and see what they're doing, and kind of, they've already had theirs made and using it. Ours is only on the dev server, so we can learn from them.
I think also this is kind of all our first chance at product development, and so kind of getting introduced to the competition of, we immediately saw it as something similar, where we didn't see the possibilities of, well, how can we make ours better? And I think that kind of scared us at first, but I think that's kind of like you said, a life lesson that we're going to have
It's
to.
a learning experience.
You guys certainly have talked about later on about how you drew off of that and improved yours. I'm just saying, embrace the challenge.
Yeah.
Right, because that's how you're going to get ahead in life. You're never going to find the one idea that no one else is ever going to have.
I think it felt like a little bit of they caught us off guard with a little bit of just naivety. Like John said, this is sort of our first shot at product development. None of us are going to really walk into a company. We all look like we're going to have jobs, but none of us are going to walk in there and set the place on fire, most likely. So we were kind of really behind it and excited, and it was just it was a little bit just shocking. But
We thought we were so creative.
those
so smart.
those kind of moments in anyone's life, you're defined. You have two roads you can take. You can either really shrivel up and just go cry in a room, or you can embrace it. And while maybe we didn't take on the challenge in the way you guys are presenting, which is very fair, I do think that we did learn lessons from it, and I think it improves all of us going into our actual professional careers.
Well, your naivete about the way the real world works, right?
Yeah,
That
we live in a bubble
benchmarking
here.
is a really good thing. And if you have good competition, benchmarking really helps you. And from an investment point of view, for you to present to me as an investor that I should invest in your company, and for you not to know who your competition is a big negative. So finding those and then addressing them you can't ignore it.
And the sun still came up the next day.
It has
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
And do you know the adage, good artists copy, great artists steal?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Take it to heart.
Okay. Yes.
You talked about your test cases when conducting the usability testing. Tell me a little bit more about the tools you used and methodology.
We use, like we said, we're in Canoa 346, and we use just, I'm not sure how big the.
Quite a big monitor.
It was a pretty big monitor, probably like a 27-inch, I want to say, or 20-inch. And we pulled up, we had 2 of the websites pulled up, but we, like we said, we didn't show any one before the other until they picked out the, whichever site they were going to see first. But it was just John there sitting next to them, and then there was someone timing it, and the user, he just walked the people through the whole testing process. So.
Okay. So yeah, I kind of, when they pick the website, we bring the website up, and I kind of give them a brief overview. Some people don't know what the Office of Student Affairs, so I'd say there's so many departments under it. Don't feel pressured or anything. We're testing usability, not your performance at all, to make sure they weren't stressed out. If you wish to, stop at any time, just let us know. And then just kind of over the shoulder, I just kind of took notes and say, all right, we'd like you to find just a list of the departments. It could be a drop down, it could be, a menu bar, anything like that. And then we just write down the time, and we just maybe take notes. Or some people, when they went to, I know, like an IT page of the departments, they go, oh my God, and they would immediately hit back. And so we take small notes kind of like that just to see initial reactions of websites.
Yeah. And even to build off of that, what was really funny to me is that even though we told them we weren't testing their performance or whatever, there was some people when we told them to find the phone number, they were like, oh, I feel so stupid, why is this taking me so long? And even though we weren't testing them, they felt like they weren't capable of finding just simple information like that. So that was pretty interesting to record. Yeah.
So how did you know what content was important for people that they wanted to find on there? So I know the phone number was hidden, it wasn't where you wanted it on the previous site. So I feel like maybe you guys, would put the phone number in a very obvious place and then ask somebody where's the phone number, and it's very obvious. So how did you know that that was important to people and that was a frustration that people had when visiting these sites?
We didn't know it was a frustration, really. We kind of thought, what would people go to these sites for? They want to know the hours of rec sports, or they want to, call and ask something. I mean, isn't that kind of what we did?
Yeah, I think we kind of pointed out, the events thing was definitely big as far as the calendar, Purdue Convocations, what's the concert going on Thursday, but also a push phone number, maybe the office hours to push to get in an office appointment, anything like that. But I think that brings up a really good point. One thing we would like to test on is just what's the right content for students, because Purdue has all this content, but what is really driving Purdue students back? And I think that's one thing that needs to be addressed, because we can make it look as pretty as possible, but it's not going to bring people back if it's not fresh content or stuff that people want to see. So I think we do need to address more of the content.
So you made assumptions about what you felt was important for people to have on there, and it wasn't really backed by any kind of research or data where people said, our biggest frustration is we can never find the phone number. 80% of the people that visit our sites are going to it for the phone numbers like that.
Yeah,
you didn't have data that
we
played with your decision making.
We did a pre-survey. We didn't get that specific necessarily into that kind of information. We did ask, for instance, how effective do you find Purdue at marketing events to you? And it ended up being about 51, 49, 51%, and was 3 or under. 49% was 4 or above. There's only maybe a couple 1s and a couple 5s, so it was really that 4 to 2 range. But we did, you're right, yeah, we did make a little bit of assumption. I think under the time crunch of how we were trying to figure out what to put on the site, we kind of assumed a little bit of bias that we are students. We've grown up on this campus for 5 years. However, we did try to validate it at the end after we collected quantitative and qualitative data. So not only did we have the times, we also asked students, is there something else you want to see on the site? Every one of our test subjects, all 56 of them, were asked that same question. Was there anything you'd like to see improve, something you don't think is necessary, you would like to see on the site? And we did get some feedback on that, so we're trying to implement that into the site.
And I think to kind of go off that, the idea here was to kind of give the general information, the basic details about each department, and I think any given person would say, the basic information is who are they, what do they do, and then the contact information and stuff, and then if they want to find out more, they would go to the other site. So that's what we kind of did, just try to pull the basic information.
Any other questions?
I think our time's waning.
All right.
Do you feel thoroughly grilled?
Feel good. It's fine.
That's good.
Wasn't too
Precision
bad.
a little bit, that was okay. Thanks, guys, it was a great
Yeah.
job.
We do have one more thing. The 3 people that had and cogent giveaway. Yes, we also have a smaller check because this one's a little big, but you can have both.
You gotta get a picture of this present.
Oh yeah. This is like my bucket list to hold a big check, really. So this is more for me than anything else.
I can have that. You're not big and I have.
No, we want
You gotta hold it. You're gonna take a picture. We can take a small one.
Okay.
We should probably get out of
What did he ask that? I know, what did they ask?
Congratulations.